Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Michael Barnaud, and we're bringing you this special edition of the Blitz. I am joined today by my previous entrant to the show. He's been gone for a little while, very, very busy man he is, but he's back to discuss a very important topic. By request, this was not a scheduled pod that will come later this week, but this is a special edition. Requested that we discuss the Dak Prescott situation down in Dallas. So without any further ado, I will introduce my guest, Chris Ferera, who joins the show today. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mike. Doing good. Happy to be back on the Blitz after a little hiatus. Been busy doing some other podcasts, but I'm excited to talk about some football.
Well, you need a little break from film every now and then.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, I don't know how anyone else is doing with this quarantine. I think I'm doing all right with it. I had a 20,000 calorie challenge a few days ago. I am doing okay. I didn't have a heart attack, although there was a time there when I was thinking it might happen. So I was like, if this is how it's going to happen, I might as well go this way.
Yeah.
But
I haven't had it as bad. I mean, luckily we started this company and all of our work is predominantly done online or recording on podcasts. So my day-to-day hasn't changed too much besides the fact that I can't just go outside and meet people. But thankfully with us doing stuff like on Zoom like this, we're able to keep on trucking along, hopefully entertaining people while they're stuck at home.
Well, that's kind of the hope with this whole thing. And again, we're lucky with with media and technology being what it is. We're allowed to keep doing what we do and help bring entertainment to people, whoever they are, and help them get through this mysterious and ultimately kind of scary but uncertain times we're living through. So hope you're all staying safe out there. And without any further ado, let's get to the act. It says here, Chris, I'm looking at an article from the Dallas News, right here, Dallas Morning News, that the Cowboys have offered Dak Prescott one of the largest contracts in NFL history. Again, this is a topic requested to us, and so we are dealing with it in this short episode. The quarterback is seeking a 4-year deal while the Cowboys are offering 5 years. Now, for those of you who don't understand why that might be the case or why he wants 4 instead of 5, the reason he wants that is so that the Cowboys can come to the so he can come back to the bargaining table after the large contracts are settled with Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes and Houston's Deshaun Watson. This is according to the Dallas Morning News. Again, Prescott will be 30 in 2023, last year of an unexpected contract, which would be in his prime. Now, I think the reason he's trying to get in at that time is so he can again seek a big contract after the fact, but $105 million guaranteed. That is more. I believe that would be more than Carson Wentz currently gets, and Jared Goff.
Yep. They both just recently signed their extensions, so he's definitely comparing himself to those two and wanting to get above market value than what they are, which we shall see.
The thing is, but those are the facts as we currently understand them on my sources. Chris, do you have anything to add to this before we get into the analysis?
Yeah. So I totally understand why he's wanting to do this from a business aspect. The NFL's salary cap last year alone was $144 million for the salary cap for each team. And I had been reading about projections and experts talking about with the new television contracts that have just been signed, by the next 2 years, they could see the potential salary cap grow to almost to 180 to potentially over 200 million per team. So you're talking about upwards of $60 million worth of more cap room for each team. So I do not blame any of these athletes for wanting to ask for more money because these teams are already raking in the dough. Now,
in light of
we'll see what happens with this coronavirus thing, if this affects like business numbers and if teams end up losing money. But at the moment, aside from that, because this isn't affecting football season, that shouldn't affect what the numbers are, depending on how long this thing goes, unlike basketball and football. But with the numbers going up like that, with teams' salary caps going up, I do not blame these athletes. And I consider myself, pro athlete. I love it when athletes get paid. But as a fan of a specific team, I sometimes look and root for these certain teams. And again, I want the teams to do well, but I also want the athletes to get paid. But I want the athletes to get paid fair market share. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And okay, so so let me get this straight. Team salary cap is going to grow by 60 million to 180 million. We're talking about.
They're projecting it to be upwards of that high with the new television contracts and the new bidding wars and the new CBA. The television contracts are supposed to explode. This is why quarterback contracts have been shooting through the roof over the last decade, because the salary cap and the amount of money that they're making from these television contracts and these networks in the markets, they're exploding. It's why Dallas is able to sign so many people. I'll talk more about the numbers specifically to Dallas, but just NFL in general. This is why players are asking for more money right now, is because the NFL is not strapped for cash. Owners are making so much money. Players are rightfully wanting a piece of that pie.
Of course.
So, in terms of Dallas, though, can I jump in on Dak now and talk about him in terms of what I'm thinking?
Absolutely.
I don't understand how they have this much money, though. Just in the last, 3 years, we've seen Dallas make about 5 players the highest paid position players in the sport. So just some numbers for you guys. I talked about the salary cap this last year was $144 million. And if it doesn't change at all, they just made DeMarcus Lawrence the highest paid defensive end, or paying him over $20 million a year. They just made Amari Cooper the highest paid wide receiver, or one of the highest paid wide receivers. They had just signed Tyron Smith to that huge extension. They made Zach Martin the highest guard. They signed Zeke Elliott to the highest running back salary. They made Jalen Smith one of the highest running back salaries. Travis Frederick was one of the highest paid centers before he retired. Just those players alone, minus Frederick, that's $93 million in their cap on those 5 players. And now you're going to add Dax, 30, whatever. You said 33 he's asking for?
No, he wants 35.
35. So add 35 on top of 93, $138 million. That's your team's salary cap as of last year on 6 players. How are you going to pay 50 other players, 48 other players?
Well, first off, I'd like to commend you on those numbers. That was a pretty impressive research there. But yeah, it's a very unique question, because I was thinking the same thing. How is Dallas affording to pay all these guys? Because it seems like you'd think, if you're listening to the numbers Dallas is throwing out, that they've got the best guy in the league at each position. And it's odd, they kind of do. Frederick retiring was that's a hit. He was one of the best centers in the NFL. But it does beg the question, how the heck are they going to pay all these guys? And now they're going to give Dak a record contract, or close to, almost what Russell Wilson is making up in Seattle.
Yep.
Now, the thing is, he talks about he's wanting more money than Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. I don't know. Right now, it seems like kind of a stretch to go with that. But right now, Chris, I want you to lay out 2 things for me. First thing, I want you to give me your reasons why Dallas should sign Dak to the contract he wants, and then I want you to give me some reasons why not before I will do the same thing. I will go why they should keep him, why they shouldn't, and then ultimately what we each think, in our own opinion, what they should do.
Okay. Why they should keep him. First off, I commend Dak for not having been a problem at all during this process. The dude's made less than, I think, $3 or $4 million in his NFL career as of right now. He's been on dirt cheap, middle of the draft salary, so he's not making even first round money. So the guy has been a standout and not been a problem for them. So I commend him on that. And I don't blame him for wanting to ask for this money. As we talked about, with the salary cap being ready to explode, he knows these teams can afford to pay him. So good for him. Why? The first question was why I think they should pay him.
Why they should pay him, yeah.
Why they should pay him is, did you not see his statistical numbers last year? The guy had his best statistical year. The dude almost threw for 5,000 yards. He had 30 touchdowns, only 11 picks. He The downside is they only won 8 games, but I mean, he has a, rapport with a lot of the people on that offense. The scapegoat, as I would say, on that team the last couple of years has been Jason Garrett, and he is out of the equation now. You have a new offensive mind in the room, and Mike McCarthy. You want to see if this is going to gel with him, and you honestly, I think if you're Dallas, Dak fits that that Texas image of what they want their quarterback to be. He's well spoken. He's not all over the place in the media, getting in trouble and everything. So I think Texas just natives and Cowboy fans love Dak. I mean, the dude went 13-3 as a rookie and won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now the team has not done nearly what it did his rookie year since then. But is all that on Dak? Was it all on Jason Garrett? We now know Garrett's gone, so we're gonna just put all the blame on Garrett. I think this is a real trial season to see what Dak can do with a new offense. Personally, would I pay him that? I mean, of course, you don't want to be searching for quarterbacks. You're screwed if you don't have a quarterback in this league. Just ask what Dallas was post Aikman. They were literally floundering forever. Even with Romo, they couldn't completely put everything together. They've had some relative success during Dak's tenure there for the past 4 years. I personally, if you're asking me, just franchise him. I know you're risking pissing him off, but even if you're franchise tagging him, I think his cap hit's going to be like $28 million. It's going to be above, I think, every other quarterback besides Russell Wilson and Goff. So he's going to be making a pretty penny. You could kind of, go the route that Washington did with Cousins, but they ended up letting him leave, and they haven't recovered from that. So you could say, look what happened to the Redskins. You let Cousins leave, and Cousins isn't. I honestly, I would say Dak is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. That's probably a stretch. I feel like they're on even par. But you could just look at that and be like, look what happened to the Redskins when they let him leave. That could happen to us. We could completely fall into oblivion.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have the money, pay him. So that's why I'd say give it to him. The dude has been the face of your franchise for 4 years. He's done everything you've asked for him. He hasn't made a stink. So that's where I'd say pay him. You want me to go on the other side now?
No. I'll ask you what you would do, what you should do at the very end, or what you want to do.
Did you? But you said make the case, right, for them letting him go too, right?
Yes, make the case for first you made the case for paying him. Now you make the case for letting him go. You kind of touched on some of it.
Oh, easy, right here. I can hammer this one real quick. You guys went 8-8 last year in his best statistical year. You really want to pay this dude $36 million and make him a higher paid quarterback than guys that have been to the Super Bowl? Russell Wilson's won a Super Bowl and he's been to 2. Goff at least went to a Super Bowl. And then everybody else in that echelon, you got Garoppolo's making about that much money, but he just went to a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers is in that range. You got Brady, you got Roethlisberger, you got Breeze. I mean, these are the legends of the position right now. That were decidedly so. They deserve it. Now, again, I should have said that Tannehill just made all this money. So if Tannehill's going to make all this money, of course Dak should be able to make this money. But if I'm the Cowboys, you just paid all those other position players that I just said. Why not franchise him, see what happens with McCarthy? If it doesn't work, shop him, trade him, look somewhere else. Next year's draft is going to have some amazing quarterbacks in it. Not saying you should tank or anything and stuff like that, but I think the position is becoming easier to find talent rather than 10 years ago. I think we talked about this not too long ago. It's not like it's going to take you 15 years to find the quarterback now. Almost all these guys coming out of college are producing right away. Yeah, you have even Mitch Trubisky came out and led his team to the freaking playoffs. I wouldn't say he's like the best quarterback, but his team was able to still win with him. So if I'm Dallas, I'm saying, I know you had him say prove it last year, but it doesn't help that they've shot themselves in the foot here by paying everybody else. So you have to. But if I'm running the team, take a page again. I'm going to talk bias here. I'm going to take a page out of John Lynch's playbook from the 49ers. Did you see he paid Garoppolo, but he paid him all front-loaded contracts. So he knew when the team wasn't going to be as well, Jimmy would make a bunch of money. And now that the team is doing well, Jimmy's cap hit has gone down. So if Dallas could do something like that where they front-load it, I don't know if they're going to be able to, though, because they're paying everybody else $20 million on the team. How are you supposed to roster? They just signed Aldon Smith off the street. And if you're going to pay everyone $120-something million, that's how you're going to have to put your team together. with a bunch of just ragtag
Well,
players.
Well, with something that you said a minute ago with them getting rid of Jason Garrett, this would be a perfect year to evaluate who was the problem. Here's the issue is now the Cowboys are in a situation right now. They have to decide, are we going to pay him or not? And I don't think they need to make that decision yet. They can always franchise tag him, but this is kind of happening at the wrong time. The ideal time for this to happen would have been after this year, honestly, because if you were gonna say, well, it's Garrett, is it Prescott? Now we're gonna find out, but they're gonna have to make this decision sooner than that. So,
not to mention, if I'm Dak, I mean, I understand you want the long-term contract, whether that be 3 to 4 years, but you've been making what, $500,000? I think last year was his highest paid year. He made $2 million or something, but you've been making dirt. Even if they franchise tag you this year, you're going to make $28 million on the franchise tag.
Oh, I believe it's 31.
Yeah, 31. So you're going to make the most money you've ever made in your life. Yeah, does it suck? You don't have the financial backing, but let me ask you this. How many quarterbacks are getting hurt nowadays? They're protecting the position so well. It's not as much of a risk as it was 5 to 10 years ago, where like Kirk Cousins was really risking it when he was doing it, and some of these other quarterbacks. Now I don't see it as much of a risk. I feel like you could play on that franchise tag. Okay. I mean, LeBron, this is basketball, not football. LeBron James basically played on a franchise tag his entire career to prove to everybody that I'm going to stay healthy and I'm just going to keep making the most money I can do. He was doing 1-and-1s. So
solid.
I don't
solid
know.
Analysis.
I don't know where I landed on this, but I'm speaking as not a Cowboy fan, and I'm just saying I think the front office has kind of screwed you. All you have to do, you want to see where your trajectory is, look at the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams made a Super Bowl, paid everybody, and now that team is a disaster. Unless McVay can get things back on track, that thing has blown up in their face, and they have too much money spent on players that are either going to go into the backside of their career or they're having to get rid of. They just got rid of Todd Gurley.
Got rid of the Gurley. I knew they were going to regret paying Gurley. I think the thing is that one, watching Todd Gurley on that was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Yeah. Like before the season even started, everybody knew his knee is wrong permanently. Like there's something like arthritis in the knee is really, really bad news. Like that's career killer news. Mm-hmm. And, so it doesn't come as too much of a shock that Gurley showed up in the season, couldn't play. Yeah. So I feel kind of bad for the Rams. They went all in for right now, and now it's biting them. It's biting them bad. But anyway, I do a great analysis and all that, but I guess that means it's my turn to lay out my thinking on it.
See what you think, Mike, on both ends of the spectrum.
Well, the reasons why I think that they should keep. I'll start with reasons they should get rid of him. The first reason, or maybe not get rid of him, but franchise tag him for sure. But definitely, if he's still not happy, look to get rid of him and replace him with someone else. The first reason is because Dak Prescott went 13-3 as a rookie, yes. But even back then, I watched most of their games because all of Dallas's games are nationally televised. Mm-hmm. You'll see their games every week. Whether they're bad or not, it doesn't seem to matter. They're on TV. So I watched that team virtually every week, and I was like, this team is loaded outside of him. And he honestly wasn't asked to do a ton. He would come off play action. It was so easy. That year they had the best offensive line in football. He just turned around, hand the ball to Zeke Elliott. And then he went play action. Guys are just running wide open, or all around him. And the defense was pretty good. They just had a great team that year. When you have the best offensive line in football that you can run the ball with, and you have Zeke Elliott behind you, they didn't have Cooper at the time, but they had Des Bryant, and they had enough talent all around the field to save him. And to be honest with you, that should have been Romo's team. Like Romo hurt his back in the preseason that year, and to be honest, I think that Cowboys team could have won the Super Bowl if Romo had been the quarterback. Just because they would have had a quarterback who could actually drop back and throw the ball and deliver it consistently from a 3 and a 5 step. Very good at reading defenses. Romo chipped away for years with nothing. Dallas was never a complete team when Romo was the quarterback. They were always missing something. Mm-hmm. And finally they got the team, and he hurts his back, and a rookie steps in and takes his job. But that's life, I guess, sometimes. So that's the first reason. Dak hasn't been asked to carry the load. I don't know a quarterback in the league who would not have had at least marginal success surrounded by the guys Dak has had. Zeke Elliott, the offensive line, Jason Witten at tight end. Yes, he's not what he used to be, but he's a veteran, and they have other tight ends who have gotten the job done. He has Amari Cooper now. They have a solid receiving core outside of him. They have great number 2 options. Like I said, like he's not lacking for talent on the offensive side of the ball. Another couple other reasons why they shouldn't pay him that much money. Compared to Carson Wentz, at some point this year, during this past season, Wentz proved he's a franchise quarterback for the future because he was throwing to absolutely no one. And really, the big game that I think Dak would have to look at as why do you think you should get paid more than those guys when you went up to Philly with the division on the line and you had all your guys. Yes, okay, they say Dak had a hurt shoulder, something other thing, whatever.
It's the end of the season. Everybody's hurt.
Exactly. People are hurt. You got to get it done. And he goes up there. Philly is a shell of their former selves. They don't have any of their skill players. Zach Ertz played that game. He actually broke his rib.
Yeah, didn't he have like a messed up kidney too in that game?
Yeah, and he didn't play Week 17 against the Giants for them. But you went up there and you got out-dueled by that same guy who had no one to throw to, and you had your whole offensive personnel in that game. So that is a big reason why I'd say they don't need to keep him were some of those things.
Biggest game of the year, and you put up 9 points.
9 points. You totally destroy your team's playoffs with the playoffs on the line. You played 15 games for this, and you put up 9 points, and we lose the division to an Eagles team that had scout players playing on offense at one point. So, that's another big problem for him on that front. But reasons why they should keep him. I think that the biggest reason why the Cowboys probably should sign him, even if it is to the 4-year, a good reason for that would be that it is hard. Like we do find talent in this year's draft, but I think the Cowboys are kind of in a good position in that if Dak doesn't do well and they lose and they have a bad year this season and they franchise tagged him, they'll have a higher draft pick next year. They can look at trying to move up and grab a Trevor Lawrence or
Justin Fields from Georgia.
Justin Fields from Georgia. They're Ohio State Justin Fields.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Ohio State. And like they can look at drafting a guy like that now, if this goes south on them, or he earns the money and they win games. Like so, I feel like Cowboys are kind of in a win-win on that front. But another reason they should keep him is that he is a very mature player. When you watch Dak Prescott go around, his intangibles are there. He's a leader. He's a grown-up. He's an adult. Easy to fight for. Easy to battle for. But that's another reason I think they should keep him, and he could be the face of the franchise because of that alone. And
not to mention what's out on the free agent market right now. It's kind of slim pickings unless you want to bring in like a Jameis Winston or a Cam Newton. But
well, for this season, no question. Like there's obviously you can't replace Dak this season. You have Jameis. Who are you going to replace him with? You have a Cam Newton who's likely not the player he used to be. Otherwise, why'd Carolina dump him if he's the player he used to be? And then Jameis Winston, who's in the 30 and 30 club, nobody wants to touch him. And so that's all you've got to replace Dak right now. I think you could sign Winston as a backup. I think Winston could be a quality backup who comes in, and because he's not going to get another deal somewhere else. But this is ultimately why Dak could be the face of a franchise. He doesn't make those huge mistakes, and he is a leader, and he is a guy that you could have in your locker room.
And he's never had a losing season. He's like 40-24 for a regular season record. Like his worst year was this year. That Cowboys team totally underperformed.
Yeah,
but they went 8-8. Like he still has not had a sub 500 team, mind you. You mentioned name me a quarterback that probably wouldn't have that type of success with that talent around him.
Yeah,
but I think if you're Dallas and you keep him, your floor what is it saying? Your floor is high. Like, you're not going to have a shitty year if you have Dak.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to move into like less devil's advocate, and I want to give your analysis based on what you see and what you have seen from Dak since 2016 when he entered the league. What would you do if you're Jerry Jones?
Well, Jerry Jones paying everybody. So if I'm Jerry and had that much money, I mean, I guess fuck it. You're like, what, 70, whatever, about to turn 80, and you got to win now. There's no waiting for you. So, I mean, just spend all your money, go in, pay everybody above market value, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't understand is, like, their problem last year was their defense and their secondary, and they let all those guys go. And I haven't seen them try to pay anybody back there. Or at least if they've tried, they've failed. And they've loaded up this offense. And as we said, you scored 9 points against Philly with that offense. So I don't know what the problem is. I think, honestly, with Garrett being out, all the cards are available. Like, if Garrett was there, I would say don't even pay him because it doesn't even matter. But now that Garrett's here, we kind of almost have to evaluate Dak completely brand new because it's going to be a different system. It's going to be something so new. So knowing that McCarthy's going to be there, I want Dak to be there to really see what he does. Now, does that mean a franchise tag or a big contract? I mean, I wouldn't mind giving him a 3-year contract. I don't think I'd want to give him $36 million like he's asking for. Just look at the Rams.
Yeah.
They gave Goff that, and look what happened to Goff.
Yeah.
So if you're asking me personally, I'd franchise tag him. Go another year. See what he looks like under McCarthy. I would, but then again, me playing devil's advocate, I can't make up mine. Franchise tag him is probably the best option. But if you do that, you worry about this. This is a business, but you still have to worry about the psychological impact that has on your quarterback, and if that's going to mess him up when he's playing, and what does that do for your offense? You give him the 3-year contract, he's happy, you pay him, and you can evaluate McCarthy for 3 years with him. So honestly, I think that's probably the best option. That report that you read at the beginning is probably what's going to happen, and Dak would probably want that to happen anyways because he'll make more money he's ever made in his entire life, and he still gets another shot at it to, surpass, if he does well, a Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. I don't think that's happening. You got to win some playoff games before you want to be in the realm with Russell. Now I'm going to get real. Before you want money like Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, like Tom Brady, all these guys, get me to the playoffs, win me a playoff game. Okay, Dak?
Yeah. Just go win a playoff game.
Yeah.
On this issue, my thoughts on it, my personal belief, what I think they should do. I've been set in my ways on this for a long time. I am not a Dak Prescott fan in terms of actually winning the game. So there's no way in hell I'm paying Dak Prescott what he wants. There's no way. He wants that kind of money when he has been carried by his team for the longest time. Yes, he has put up decent numbers in that time. But if you want that kind of money, you would have to be Russell Wilson, Pat Mahomes level player. And I'm sorry, Dak, you're not. Like, as good of a guy as he is, I don't see Russell Wilson and Pat Mahomes put teams on their back and they go win games. Dak Prescott rarely does that. If you watch the Cowboys in his time there with the way they've been, they win when they're at their best by running the ball and running play action off of it, which is not Dak centric. It is offensive line and Zeke centric. Like, that's what it relies on. But with Frederick retiring, that's a major hole in that offensive line that just opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And Dak has not proven that to me. There's no way I can pay him that money.
Just because the Rams screwed up and gave Goff that much money doesn't mean other teams should do the same thing.
No. And for the listener who requested that we talk about this, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on Dak Prescott himself, or what you think, but I am of the opinion here on the Blitz that the Cowboys should not pay him that kind of money. I think Jones is going to do it because I think Jerry's like, I'm too old to start over again and try some other quarterback. And he's like, I just need to pay Dak and pray that he's got the goods. What I think they should do is don't pay him. What I think they're going to do, I think Jerry Jones is going to end up signing him to a huge contract. I know Jones likes Prescott. And I think that definitely plays into the whole thing. But I think it'd be a massive mistake by the Cowboys organization to pay him a long-term deal like that.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a big mistake.
Kirk Cousins is making $21 million. Matt Ryan is making $19 million, and Carson Wentz is making under $19 million. That's the range that he should be at.
Yeah, he should be down there, with those guys. And even you could even argue below those guys. I see Dak Prescott as a second-tier starter in the NFL. I just do, and I think that's kind of where he is to stay. Because the biggest reason is I just don't think he's a good enough pure passer of the football to be considered in that range. I don't see him as being he doesn't extend the play like Russell Wilson can. He doesn't, and he's not as good as ad-libbing as Russ, and he doesn't have the cannon that Mahomes has. And I still say Deshaun Watson has better ability to ad-lib, and and Deshaun Watson's without question the better talent. He just doesn't have the team around him. But in fairness, who the hell does? So
yeah.
I don't think Dak should get paid.
Well, they're definitely not going to if they continue to keep giving everyone $20 million.
I was going to say, you're going to have to
sign me off the street to come because you're going to have no money.
Right. You're going to have $2 million to sign the other 18 players. I don't know who you're going to get, but they're probably all going to, it's not going to be pretty. I think the Cowboys are setting themselves up. But I think with paying all these guys right now, I think Jerry Jones is putting all his chips in on the table and saying, I'm going all in right now. I'm old. I don't have many years left. I don't have many shots left to get a championship. I'm just going to overpay, like you said, probably overpay for some guys, pay above market value for them. And I think that's the direction it's going to go. Jones will pay him, but I don't think he should.
Yep.
So anyway, that'll do it for this edition of The Blitz. I would like to thank Chris again for coming on to the show. Chris, do you want to tell us again, do you want to tell us what your shows are that you're doing or that you host?
Yeah, I mean, just running a bunch of stuff, but primarily my two shows, Ready or Not and On Your Mark. On Your Mark, we're just doing lots of film-related stuff, talking about movies, actors, film franchises. I love that stuff. So we kind of do deep dives into that, and it's been fun. We just recorded one on Rocky that will be coming up here soon, which will be exciting listen. And then then Ready or Not, we've kind of just been having my opinion shows, and lately we've been doing some fun stuff because it's quarantine and doing some fantasy drafts of weird things like video games and Disneyland and stuff like that. So just trying to do stuff to give people some entertainment while we're all stuck inside.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, Chris is a fellow member of the Barker Media, and again, I want to thank you for coming on. But this has been another special edition of The Blitz. I will be releasing more pods later this week, but I will talk to you all again soon, and stay safe out there during this quarantine.